What's happening, people? Back with another reaction, back with some psy-trance, and we're going to listen to a tune from about 20 years ago. This is from 2003. It's from Tip World, the label, which is run by Roger Ram. And Roger Ram, who was in the 70s in like a, I think like psychedelic funk sort of outfit called Quintessence, like a jazz funk outfit. Eventually went on the hippie trail, discovered Goa trance in the like classic phase, and began the Tip label, which, you know, years later like morphed into Tip World, and I think like the original Tip is now reactivated. But he's like this old school guy. I think he is like quite old now. I think like late 70s, something like that, if not even like maybe 80. But yeah, he's been around the Goa and Psy scene for a very long time, and he's run a couple legendary labels that have continued to put out vinyl. The old school Tip stuff is more like proper Goa trance from the 90s. The Tip World stuff, which is mostly like post-2000, it is, you know, kind of post-2000 psy-trance. It's a little bit different of a flavor. 1200 Micrograms is the artist here, and that is the Growling Mad Scientist guys mixed with Roger Ram, aka Ron Rothfield, I think is his real name. Used to be in Quintessence. But yeah, bottom line, 1200 Micrograms has done a few albums. This is the second one. The first one's self-titled. One of the worst and saddest stories of my experience with Discogs, and I think the only time this ever happened, like maybe 15 years ago. It was a long time ago. It was like late 2000s, maybe like 08, something like that. I tried to buy a copy of their first album, the self-titled one, bought it on Discogs, guy like, okay, great, you know, send me the money and so on, and I sent the money, and then he disappeared and like, you know, like closed the account. And eventually, like, I had to try to go through PayPal to get a refund, and it was only partial because they were like, oh, well, but you sent it to like this PayPal address, because he had said, oh, you know, I'm still setting up my account. So bottom line, I got swindled, and I never ended up getting the album, and now copies for it go for like $200 and something. So I'm not in a position to get it, but at some point in the future, I would like to complete my 1200 Micrograms collection. Regardless, we are going to listen to a tune that was brought to my attention recently through a conversation. Someone mentioned the Dire Straits, you know, the money for nothing, chicks for free. And that reminded me that there is a psy-trance, and not only psy-trance, but acid-heavy psy-trance cover of that track, and it's called Acid for Nothing, and it's by 1200 Micrograms on their second album, Heroes of the Imagination, which is 2003 on Tip World. Once again, shout out to Roger Ram. And as you can see, it's like each track is a celebration of someone who was, you know, had the imagination to see or do things differently. So, it, you know, it's scientific figures like Galileo, and Faraday and Einstein, but it's also like artistic figures, you know, like Leonardo and so on, and then Babbage for computer language, Crick and Wilson for DNA, and Albert Hoffman for acid, for, you know, seeing that perhaps this chemical could be used maybe for therapy, maybe just for cognitive exploration and so on. And again, sort of stumbled upon accidentally, but obviously acid, even if the link between the psychedelic experience and acid as a type of music is like, it's indirect, don't get me wrong, it's there, but it's not like a direct, clear, like obvious, when people say acid, that means they must be into acid in the other sense. But, you know, again, certainly in acid techno, the connection is certainly undeniable on some level. So I think it's acid here is, you know, playing off both concepts. The fact that it's a tribute to Hoffman and it's called Acid for Nothing, but it also features some 303 work. So let's get it. This is 1200 Mics. The track is Acid for Nothing from their 2003 album, Heroes of the Imagination, and this is the wrong of the two records. So before we can listen to what I just said, we do actually have to grab the right record, unfortunately. What is happening here? Right. Anywho, this is, as I said, Acid for Nothing by 1200 Micrograms, often just shortened to 1200 Mics, from Heroes of the Imagination, and the track is called Acid for Nothing, 2003, on Tip World. You bastard.
Judaism is salvation, it's not language, it's future.
There's like no gap between the tracks. epic and legendary riff.
The trick is, you gotta realize that you're dreaming in the first place. You gotta be able to recognize it. You gotta be able to ask yourself, hey man, is this a dream? Dream?
I enjoy the form of that question. I do love that hard synth.
Seems like everyone's sleepwalking through their waking state or wake-walking through their dreams.
and like nearly as much as I've heard the earlier majority of the track. This would be a good ending tune for a set. Yeah, definitely a good set ender. It's great, man. I love it. They definitely do cheeky stuff like that. Like there's one of the other 1200 micrograms. It's actually like a remix vinyl. Oh, but no, it's also on the Time Machine. What am I saying? Like, so there's another album they did after this. I want to say it's like '04 or something like that. It's called Time Machine, or The Time Machine, and all the tracks are like themed around like like ancient Greece is one of the tracks, and so it has like this Greek folk music bit, and then I have an album they did of remixes of 1200 mic tunes, and there's like a really cool remix of that Greece track. I think it's by Save the Robot, and there's like a cool remix of their Egypt track by Eat Static. But bottom line, the Time Machine, it's like again ancient Egypt and like these different places. And then I also have a release, I think it's also them, where it's like South America, where it's like the Americas and the pre-modern Americas is sort of the theme. So yeah, obviously Roger Ram and Tip in general, it's about being like global and plugged into all the like mystical knowledges in different places and so on. So I do enjoy the vibe of the 1200 mics releases, as well as Tip World and Tip more generally. So like I said, shout out to Roger Ram as well as 1200 mics. And yeah, let me know what you think of this one. There's a lot of tracks, like I said, where they incorporate other types of music, where they cover like classic tracks, from rock and other genres. So we'll go through some more psy-trance from Tip and Tip World. Let me know what you think of this one. I will see you next time. Peace.